I apologize for my co-host tardiness. I am Top Hat Plus between two fenders. This is my co-host, Stanced Stanley. Apparently he got into a few too many nose beers and passed out into the sawdust. I had no partaking in that. I've not been home for a week. Rude. He knew we were doing this. We set it up ahead of time. Apparently he forgot. Lost it in his calendar. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to talk about the Corvette E-Ray, its relevance, irrelevance, pros and cons, because there's quite a bit of stir. Some people love it, some people hate it. The mockery is never ending. I don't feel like it's necessarily deserved. We knew this was coming. Everything has to have a hybrid version at this point, including Corvette. And there's so many stereotypes about owning these cars and fuel economy and every aspect of it that are so blown out of proportion. Like, I have a 2016 Camaro 2SS and I can get 33 miles per gallon on the highway. I've done it many times. I set it at a speed that is 4 or 5 above the speed limit. I set cruise control, drops into 4-cylinder mode, and I just putter down the highway almost indefinitely. I've never driven it from point A to point B on the highway on a single tank of gas. I get 600, 700 kilometers in, and there's still another 100, 200 kilometers on the tank. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, I can burn it around town driving it in manual mode, but quite frankly, it can be unbelievably efficient. So everybody's getting all harping on them. They're like, oh my God, it has an electric mode. If you ask me, the electric mode has nothing to do with the EPA. It has everything to do with hitting the demographics that will not buy sports cars because they are Karens or they live in Karen environments. So if you live in a townhouse complex, you have 1 or 2 spots in the garage and 1 or 2 spots in the driveway in front of it. You probably drive a RAV4, an Equinox, maybe you drive a Colorado or a Tacoma. Like, you tend to be driving smaller vehicles because of restrictions and parking space and everything else, cost, efficiency. Like, it makes sense to buy them. They're not fun, exciting, or cosmetically appealing, but they're downsizing in their life, and that is what makes sense for them. So that's what they buy. No judgment. But then they get into this lifestyle and this downsized house, and they have less space and this and that and the other, and they need a way to get out. They need a way to enjoy. Pretty much everybody's a Corvette fan. If you aren't, you just don't like cars. So you're a Corvette fan or you are a sports car enthusiast. The Corvette comes out, mid-engine, super low, target top, hardtop convertible. It's like the budget Ferrari. I hate the saying, but it is quite accurate. And you've got to live with that car in these townhouses, in these retirement complexes, down in Florida, up here in Canardia. Like, there's so many aspects of owning a car that are good and bad. I live in a small town. I live in downtown. When I fire my Camaro up at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night because I'm going to go visit a friend spontaneously, or I'm going for a workout and it's raining and I don't want to take the scooter, like, I don't feel good about firing that thing up at 10 o'clock at night being between 2 other houses, because everybody knows when I come and go. Everybody knows, and I've had many comments to me about it. I have apologized. None of my neighbors have issues with it because they like cars, and I'm very fortunate for that. But if they didn't, it would be an absolute disaster. So I am quite fortunate on that aspect. But I do understand the value of being able to come and go from your house without, setting off fireworks and a parade headed down the street. So I understand both aspects. And I think the E-Ray Corvette is going to appeal a lot to those circumstances. A lot to the guys that are in a subdivision, maybe they're middle-aged and they want to come in and out and maybe put it in manual mode to take a windy road. Like, I've got Snake Road that I used to drive in my car all the time, and it's only like 1.5 miles, but it's got a bunch of tight corners and you're doing 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour, and you just need that thrill, but you don't want to come home again with the fireworks and the parade and all the neighbors and everything else. Like, there is a certain amount of respect I have for my community and my neighbors that I try to express, and if I have something, like I have this car that makes all this noise with the mufflers on and everything, I apologize and I try to be cordial. There's no point in me just knowingly disrespecting or interrupting their lives, because then they can make my life hell. So I try to have a little bit of the flow. The next big aspect of it that, like, everybody's like, oh my God, it's electric and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's cool, I get it. But it is now all-wheel drive. The C8 is the first Corvette that you can see a number on a sheet and go, oh, that doesn't seem that fast. Get in it and just be blown away. A C6Z you knew was fast, 500 horse, 427. A C6 ZR1 you knew was dangerously fast, 640 horse. You looked at it, you're like, that is a death missile. It is unacceptably powerful. It is for qualified and capable drivers. It is not for the old guy throwing his clubs in to go get groceries or go to the golf course or do the runaround things. So Corvettes have been very, I call them, like, they almost need to do like a little bit of vetting before you buy it. Like, there's a lot of power there. Even the base models, like, there's a lot of power there. It does not want to go straight ever. And that's really where Tesla shines significantly. It's like the cars perform 0 to 60 in a straight line every time without any need to have an ability to comprehend how fast things are happening. My car, 455 horse, 3,700 pounds. On paper, you're like, it probably boogies. It can be very dangerous. It can get out of hand very, very quickly. I had one night, probably, say, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm cruising down the highway doing like 70 miles an hour in a 65 zone, and a car was being an absolute dick to me on the highway. So I just kind of blipped the throttle, it downshifted. I just wanted to get away from him, and the car went right sideways. Just instantly right sideways. And I'm sitting there and I'm driving it sideways on the highway now. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, and I'm glad I am engaged in my driving all the time so that when these scenarios happen, I can correct and continue down the road safely without spinning my car into a guardrail or doing something ridiculous or hurting somebody else. I never intended to race. I never intended to do. I just wanted to put a little bit of distance between me and this car that seemed to have no consideration for anybody. So, to me, Corvettes are just a lighter, more powerful version of that. It's that, but more. And if you aren't a fairly confident driver, or you haven't been to the track and felt the car slide, and you just make the monthly payments, you leave the garage, and you're out in the world with it, it can be very dangerous. So I feel like the C8 Corvette, even base model, came out, and it went straight. The power puts down, and it goes in the direction you're going at an unbelievable rate of speed, which is super cool. Also dangerous, because it's still rear-wheel drive, and if it starts going, there's really nothing to correct. At that point, it's like a hammer, right? Like, the weight is behind you, and it's now pulling you around. So it can be very dangerous. But the all-wheel drive will buffer a lot of that. If you start coming out, like in a Tesla, because you're not waiting for downshifts, those electric motors can kick faster and pull the vehicle back straight faster. So it will give a lot more people a lot more confidence to take that power. It's 655 horsepower, I believe, with the hybrid, and it's 170 horse is the electric portion. I'm not exactly sure the numbers. They're not that important, to be honest. I feel like horsepower anymore is irrelevant. Like, it is unbelievably fast, and it goes straight. Or it takes corners. You kind of pick your poison, I guess. So, you've got this demographic that doesn't have the reflexes they used to. They don't want to drive the car. They just want to steer the car. And that's where it kind of buffers a lot of it. And I'm not judging anybody for those. Like, I would rather you are not the world's sharpest race car driver, and you will maybe buy a car that's a little bit more predictable and understanding of that than buy just whatever the most expensive thing you can afford is, and then go out and get hurt or hurt somebody. I mean, we see it all the time on social media, or we see young people in these cars doing donuts in intersections and hitting people and hitting curbs and hitting light posts, and it's like, well, they don't have the responsibility to operate these vehicles, and the vehicles have gotten so fast. It really is concerning to me at times that they would just go do it. It's no big deal, just whatever. You can afford it, you can drive it, you can go crash and die, I guess. Like Bugatti, you have to put a separate key in. You have to do stuff in order to unlock top speed mode. Not that the basis is anything to blush about, but holy smokes. Things need to be understood. And I feel like the car industry has gotten to a point where it just isn't. We look at brochures, we look at influencers, and it's like, oh, they have it, I need it too now. Like, oh my God, it's so cool. But they don't realize the caveats that come with it. And I feel like the E-Ray kind of bridges a lot of those gaps. I do like that they are doing the Z06 wide body style with the Ninja Star versus the Boomerang on the vent. The only thing I don't really like about it is everything's color matched. I don't know if that's an option or you have to pay extra to get it back. I don't know, but I don't love it. I love seeing all the vents and details and accents and things that really bring the car to life and show its character and personality. Imagine if guys grew beards and they were color matched to our face. It wouldn't accent our face. We couldn't make it a part of our style. It would just make our face look really weird and blocky and gross. So, accents matter. Everything matters. And that's just an example. And one of the very few cars I've seen in a really long time that a premium trim was not decked out in accents. But again, it is what it is. It is cool. I'm quite proud of them for doing it. They both did that while doing the Z06, the 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. And quite frankly, they probably could have skipped the Z06, released the E-Ray, and people would have been pretty floored because it's a fair bit of horsepower. And it really would have bridged that Z06 gap had we have not known what a Z06 would be. If you kind of follow me down that train a little bit, right? Like taking an LT1 and turning it into an LT4 with a supercharger, like they did from the base model C7 Stingray to the C7 Z06, like same motor, powertrain, everything else, just a horsepower bump. They could have taken the LT2, just thrown the electric assist on, thrown a 650 horsepower number out, and shipped it as an all-wheel drive car that dominates on the quarter mile, and people would have loved it. They really could have, and nobody would have known any different. But we do know different, so obviously we're going to keep the $300,000 plus because that's what they're selling for Z06s, which makes me super happy because I can't afford them. Love it. So that's it. That's a few of my initial thoughts on the new Corvette E-Ray. I think it's cool. I think some of the negativity is a little exaggerated from people. They don't seem to understand, or like I'm making videos joking about it being for Karens, or it's for seniors, or it's for this, or it's for that. They are just jokes. Like, I really do think it's cool, and I wanted to make a video sharing it. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are down below. Subscribe to the channel. We have big plans this year. We're gonna change the world. Till next time, drive safe, take care, behave, as always. Stanley, do better.